So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What if Naruto had an epiphany, the manifestation of Jesus Christ to the world? Geez, given the amount of moving we did, you'd expect that it'll get easier. Naruto grumbled. It would get easier if you would just talk less. Kurama drawled from his mindscape. Naruto gasped, why I'm the one who's actually doing the moving, Igno. You don't get to comment on my suffering. He said as he crossed his arms. Well, your whining brings suffering to my peace. Just get moving, will you? Kurama, exasperated. I would definitely finish faster if you actually helped me. Igno, you can get out of the seal on your own, right? Yes, I know I can. What you should ask is, do I want to help? Kurama humored. Well, do you want to? No. Arg. You overgrown fox. You should have suggested that if y'all just say no. Naruto harumphed. Kurama just ignored him and went back to dawdling in his mindscape. Him, the greatest and mightiest demon, help in doing such a puny thing like moving. Nah, he doesn't think so. Naruto just sighed and looked around the place. It's definitely huge for just a single person to live, but it will do. Kurama most of the times like to get out of the seal and continue lazing around outside, so a huge room for him is a must. Even though that fluffball is very much of an asshole, Naruto won't intentionally limit Kurama's comfort. You are thinking like that just to guilt trip me into helping, huh? Kurama suddenly said. Whatever do you mean, dear O2 of mine? Naruto asked innocently. Kurama just sighed and looked at the mindscape sky and asked Kami why he have such an irritating Musuko. Hess just gonna complain, but hell still help Naruto anyway. Hess it's Sundir like that, whatever. He rolled his eyes and closed it. Afterwards, he appeared on the outside in his dog-sized fox form and then transformed to his human form. He made sure that his appearance was as close as it can get to his fox form, albeit just the color. He prided himself very much on his beautifully colored fur after all. His hair is burnt orange in color and is really long, but not too long that it hinders his movements while training or fighting or just doing menial tasks when he decided to help Naruto, which Hess doing right now. Hess wearing a surprisingly modern outfit, casual and designed to make him comfortable but still with style. He wore a cotton fleece sweatpants because he knew arranging their belongings could be so troublesome word courtesy of a certain Nara. Hess gonna need to be comfortable, so he wore a plain gray shirt with a small geometrical design of a fox's head on one of the sleeves, because fox. He doesn't like wearing shoes because he prefers it if he could feel the ground that he walks on, specifically the nature, but since they're just inside of their new home, he decided, I am just going to wear some shoes, whatever it is for. I would not like the kid to whine about how I am acting so ungentlemanly like. Feh. Kurama is a demon, yes, but that doesn't mean that he shouldn't wear something fashionable, nah. He prefers wearing something not bright, as to not clash with his fiery hair color, like monotone ones, and even pastel sometimes if he felt like it. As for his features, he made sure that he looks old enough to pass as Naruto's guardian, since he can manipulate his appearance age-wise after all. Looking at his face, you could immediately say that Hess not an approachable individual despite being extremely handsome, because of the scowl that seemed to be etched on his face. His scowling face dedicated specially for other humans, just to be clear. Other humans, which means his kid is not included, because even though Hess the most infuriating and stubborn human he knows, Kurama is very much fond of him. He won't say that to him, of course. Even though his face is fierce, with his sharp dark eyes, tinged with a little bit of red if you look closely, which you definitely won't because he execrated being in such a close proximity with other people except his kid, with his straight nose, which he constantly turns up to look down at mere mortals except his kid, and with his lips often formed in a sneer and of distaste in being at the presence of other people except his kid, need I say more? Hess definitely not that fond of his kid, which he treats as if his own son. Kurama tried to convince himself with this thought, which Hess completely failing at by the way. Perhaps you would be convinced if you didn't notice how his eyes would soften whenever he watches Naruto speak expressively when Hess outside the seal, or how his lips would turn to a soft smile or a smirk whenever he talks with him with their constant banter in a very father-son way, or how his overall feature, stance, how his body relax, and all his tenseness begin when Hess at Naruto's presence. Because really, if there's a single being that Kurama would trust his very life with, it would only be with Naruto. Kurama just sighed and resigned himself in this predicament because despite his constant grouching, he wouldn't want it in any other way. He stood to his full height, not really towering over Naruto, but enough to see their height difference, along with their different body type, whereas Kurama is on the brawny side, while Naruto is on the not so brawny side. Hess not scrawny in any way but his muscle is not on par with Kurama's, which he still complained on till this day. He actually did many things on their travel on the outside to get that perfect robust body, deserving for very manly men his words. Sure, he gained muscles and his body became visibly more fit but not enough to be on par with what he has in mind. Well, such is life. Also, it would actually be pretty nice if Kurama stopped teasing him for his sad predicament because he just wanted to be a hunk, damn it. Whilst Kurama is that tall, dark, and handsome brute, he appreciated this phrase very much because please, Hess undoubtedly swoon-worthy even as a human, Naruto is the boy next door. Someone whose parents would trust their daughters or sons to upon first meeting, hence, the innocent young man. That's what most people would describe him as, but as a matter of fact, Hess far from that. He just gave off that aura of innocence that makes you think that Hess that shy, unassuming, and typical average boy upon encounter. In actuality, he purposely let himself be overlooked by being quiet at first. If in his childhood, Hess brash, loudmouthed, annoying, and bright, literally bright because of his jumpsuit, then now Hess the total opposite. His choice of clothing made himself not stand out but still remain fashionable, unless Hess faced with Kurama's wrath because he won't let his Musuko be seen with his lackluster choice of clothing, which in turn influenced him in actually putting an effort to his sense of fashion, to Kurama's approval. Hess just tired of dealing with other people's nosiness, so he doesn't want to raise a ruckus with being too noticeable. However, it proved to be really difficult bearing his appearance in mind. First thing that Yao'll notice would be his whiskers. Instead of making his face look feral, it just added to his cuteness, much to his chagrin, because Hess not cute, grr. Hess very manly, thank you very much. His eyes, whereas he inherited the color from his father, then its shape was from his mother's. That bluest of blue, that it seemed to make the sky jealous for their brightness and make the sea sulk for its depth, looked so genuine and pure that it makes almost anyone believe that he would never do a lowly thing such as lie, which he found amusing because Hess a ninja, and ninjas are not what you would consider an honest bunch. But that doesn't mean that he would lie constantly, actually he seldom lies, and as much as possible, he remains true to what he says except when needed for personal reasons or on his infiltration missions where he needs to lie to survive and accomplish what needed to be done, or simply just for pranking. He can lie, yes, but never to the point that he'd betray people he considered precious. He supposed that it's other people's fault for not seeing his fox-like mischief through his eyes that lights up whenever his almighty prankster side calls for his attention. It's not so bad, he tries to argue, not so bad for him, but definitely bad for his prank victims. His features are balanced and symmetrical in a heart-shaped face. His skin is clear and smooth due to his inhuman healing rate that you won't even consider him a fighter due to his scarless and blemish-free skin. Perhaps you won't consider him as one too if you ignored the way he confidently carries himself, the way his body seemed falsely relaxed but is actually ready for action without any opening to avoid unnecessary complication due to carelessness, the way he walks gracefully, as if Hess a predator approaching his prey, with his seemingly all-knowing eye that takes in all information he could gather from someone that he initially deduced from his observation upon first encounter. He won't put it past someone to be secretly a friendly, but is actually an enemy, even if he and Kurama has lived on the outside for so long without serious battles. They can't and won't afford to be too careless and trusting. Such is the upbringing of a battle-worn shinobi and a demon. His hair is still that bright blonde that whereas his eyes compete with the skies and seas, his hair rivals the color of the sun. They left the elemental nations with his hair still short, but as they continued to travel around the outside, he contemplated how his father filled his physical aspect with his color, that they almost looked uncannily the same. So he decided that he'll make his hair long as an attribute to his mother's features. His spiky hair settled down to manageable strands after reaching his surprisingly slender waist, not too straight to be silky smooth, but not curly enough to be wavy. It's just in between and is really smooth to the touch because he takes real good care of it. Having long hair is so troublesome, not because it gets in the way of his fights or training, but because it takes so much effort to maintain. A ninja's length of hair can be considered a testament to their strength because it's either they're too strong to consider their long hair a hindrance or just plain stupid and arrogant to cut it. Naruto's definitely not the latter. He may be a little bit of a slowpoke, but he won't intentionally put his life at risk just for his hair. Hess just really strong and skillful to be hurt because of his hair. Hess certainly not boasting, just stating a fact. Naruto's still a bit smug about it, though. Plus, he normally ties it in a low ponytail whenever he expects a fight, not every time really, but most of the time. All in all, he has his father's color but with his mother's physique. His clothes mostly include jackets and coats, shirts with the Uzumaki clan symbol on either its left side of the chest, at the back, or at one of its sleeves, and his fitted pants, that consists of stretchable fabric to fully utilize his flexibility, either for a fight or just for comfortability. Currently, Naruto's hair is loose and Hess wearing a light blue shirt with black colored sleeves and his clan symbol on his left chest, along with his favorite pants that is really breathable and easy to move with his black Adidas running shoes with a little bit of orange stripes to its sides. Naruto gave Kurama the boxes that contained their collection of books that they acquired all throughout their travels, and yes, Naruto reads. He actually found it not too boring, especially if the book is interesting. He especially indulged in history because the history here is so different from that of the elemental nations. Plus, he also had to read if he wanted to keep up with how the cultures here differ from every part of this world. He'll divulge on his current knowledge at a later time. How do you want them organized? If it were up to me, I will just throw it in a room. Kurama grumbled. What? Then we'll have a harder time finding what we need. Naruto squawked. Just put them on the shelves in the library room and arrange them alphabetically. It would be preferable if they are divided according to genre though, but still chronologically organized. Just make sure that we can easily get what we need in the future, so we won't waste too much time with just finding it. He said, honestly, I acted more of the father between us sometimes, Kurama. Naruto groaned. PFFT. I am just messing with you. You must have forgotten that I am technically the one who taught you how to be the manageable brat that you are now. If there was a master of organization, then it certainly is not you. Kurama smirked and turned around to go to the library room. Naruto just sticked his tongue out to Kurama's direction. So mature that you are. Kurama continued to say despite with his back turned. How do you know? Know what? I just knew you would do something childish, so I said how mature you are. Looks like I am right. I really hate you sometimes, Ikno. Aw, I love you too. Kurama laughed while immediately exiting the room because he knew the extent of his kit's wrath and he really didn't want to face it. Teasing Naruto really is amusing though, and he didn't think he'll ever get tired of it. Naruto would have burst had Kurama continued to tease him, but then again, he had already gone to the library room. He just settled on sighing and continued to gaze with an appreciative look to their new home. It's still too big for them, but it's too beautiful to pass, plus it has a really big yard surrounded by walls that are tall enough to ensure their privacy. They'll just use one of his seals that can completely block a place's sound that can be produced. He specifically made it for when he and Kurama spar because their jutsus can be a bit on the noisy side. The type of noisy that will make other people think that their town is under attack or something. He also made a set of seals that can return a field's original appearance at the time when the seal was applied, so they don't have to hold back while sparring. It's definitely ingenious if he do say so himself. It's a bummer to make though, too complex and takes more time to draw compared to some of his seals but hey, it's worth it. The yard also has enough space for gardening which makes Naruto happy because he loves growing plants. It actually became his hobby back when he was a kid. Whenever he buys vegetable, he always gets the worst of them with triple the price. He thought that was normal though, so he didn't complain. But soon after, he started hating the vegetables because it's so yucky and can't stomach it anymore. Despite his knowledge of it being a human body's need, he just can't eat it and so he resorted to ramen because it's instant and long-lasting. Despite its nutritional value, which is practically not so much, it became his main source of food because it has a long shelf life and is absolutely tasty. That's why when he became a genin and Kakashi started giving him a basket full of vegetables, he ignored it and didn't take a look inside because surely they're inedible. But then, Kakashi got fed up with the wasted vegetables and forced Naruto to sit down and talk to him so he can understand why he hated it so much. Flashback. Oh no, Kakashi-sensei. That must have cost a fortune. And are those vegetables supposed to look like that? The last time I remembered, the leaves of the vegetables I bought aren't green and the other things are too soft or sometimes smell really bad and they even have completely different texture too. Naruto exclaimed as he examined the vegetables. Kakashi remained silent for a few minutes to the point that Naruto became uncomfortable. Was it something I said? I don't think I said anything bad though. Unbeknownst to Naruto, Kakashi is silent because he's having a rough time reining in his rage. How dare they? He growled in his mind. How dare they try to trample on the Yondame's legacy? He said as he clenched his fist so hard, they turned white. He looked at Naruto with a resigned eye and thought, forgive me, Naruto-kun. The Sandane promised me that you are properly taken care of. I'm sorry for not properly taking a look at you. After a few moments, Kakashi managed to calm himself down. How about I cook something with these and then you rethink your mindset about vegetables? Kakashi said with a matching eye smile that looks like an upturned letter U. Hey, you don't need to do that, Kakashi-sensei. I really don't like it and you won't change my mind. Naruto huffed as he turned his head sideways to avoid looking at Kakashi. No, that's not really a request, my cute little genin. He replied as his smiling eye turned creepier and creepier as seconds passed by. Naruto felt a chill ran down his spine and looked at Kakashi's eye, which seemed to say that if he did not eat, then he'll do something drastic that would make sure Naruto ate his vegetables. Naruto got distracted for a moment and thought, how could his eye, the only thing visible from his face, speak so much? I don't know if that's awesome or scary. He looked at Kakashi again and thought, no, it's definitely scary. I'll eat vegetables, Dadabeo. You seriously can't take a joke, Kakashi-sensei. He finally replied. Kakashi opened his eye while still smiling and said, of course you'd like to eat them. I'm the one who's going to cook after all. I almost believed that you really dislike them. Then his eye curved again. And no. You can start cooking now, Kakashi-sensei. I'll help with whatever I can. Naruto said sheepishly. Takashi's smile turned genuine. Good. Let us start with our cooking escapade. He said as they head to Naruto's small kitchen. A few minutes later, a shout can be heard throughout the village. What? There's suo delicious, Kakashi-sensei. What did you do? Did you perform a jutsu? Ah, that explains how it tastes so different compared to the ones I cooked. Naruto said with his eyes closed as he nodded his head. He suddenly opened his huge eyes and shouted, "Will you teach me, Kakashi-sensei, teach me, please, I really want to learn them. I mean, I like ramen, really, but it would be awesome if I could eat something other than ramen, Dadabeo." And then he stopped rambling because Kakashi put his hand to his mouth to stop him from talking his ear off further and said, "Yes, Naruto-kun, I'll teach you so you can cook your own food next time. But you're going to use the vegetables I brought, understand?" Naruto just nodded and said, "HMMFFMPWMFMMFOMFBEMFBF." Kakashi removed his hand, "Could you repeat that? I know I'm awesome and all that, but I don't actually speak gibberish." Naruto sheepishly smiled and repeated, "Can I grow my own vegetables?" "That's a great idea, indeed. But you'll have to wait for a long time for it to fully grow." Naruto just smiled widely and nodded. He can wait. He's an impatient kid but he can wait. Flashback end. Now he missed Kakashi. He sighed and continued arranging his belongings. "Arg, doing this would be a little bit more fun if school won't start until tomorrow." He mumbled. "If you think that way then it is entirely your fault. You just slept the moment we arrived here." Kurama suddenly interjected. Of course, he noticed Kurama walking back to where he was. He's a skilled censor after all. He just didn't expect him to just intervene with his ramble again. "What are you saying? We just arrived yesterday, Ikno. You can't expect me to start doing this when I was dead tired on my feet." Naruto deadpanned. "You keep stressing yourself over such trivial things. You are not required to finish these tasks before school, and I am sure you are aware of that. The real reason you are so grumpy today is simply because you are nervous as to what will happen to your another first day of school. Do not fret for I know that you will do just fine, like how you always did," Kurama said in an uncharacteristically serious tone. Naruto tried to think of a comeback but just sighed, "You're right. I'm letting it get to me too much. I'm just, too nervous. I mean, yeah, I've already studied to a bunch of schools because of our current predicament." Kurama just raised an eyebrow at this, but just, ugh. Naruto groaned. "You know what? I'll just relax. We'll just finish arranging our stuff bit by bit. It's not like we have to do this quickly, anyway." Naruto contradicted himself. "Thank you, by the way, Kura-chan." He smiled softly. "Ah, what for? And I would appreciate it more if you stop using that kami-forsaken nickname. Besides, all your stressing seemed to have dimmed your mind all the more," Kurama said, albeit a bit embarrassed. "Ah, he's still not used to being thanked. And also, I like that nickname so I won't stop using it." Naruto thought and decided not to mention it. "Huh? What do you mean by that?" he asked instead. Kurama looked at him straight in the eyes and deadpanned, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." A few minutes passed by with a frozen Naruto until he suddenly slammed his head against the wall. "Continue to do that and you might just kill the few brain cells that you still have." Kurama mused. "Arg, shut up. Just let me suffer silently in my misery." "You're not exactly silent." Naruto just groaned and abruptly stood straight and went to one of the boxes with a label for squiggles. This box contains Naruto's sealing requirements and scrolls that contain pre-made seals, which were systematically classified according to its function. It'll just make a few shadow clones after applying security seals to this house's walls and the surrounding walls outside, and also the gates. He shuffled through his neatly organized collection of seals. "These should suffice." Naruto hummed after bringing up a few set of seals. "It's not like there are any seal masters out there aside from me that can decode these. I think there is no individual that could even understand your sealing madness anyway, much less a master." Kurama mused. "After that, go to sleep. You are still sluggish on your feet." Kurama said. Yeah, see you tomorrow." He waved without looking at Kurama. She was just about to descend down the stairs when she abruptly stopped and her eyes glazed. When her eyes cleared up, anyone could see that what she foresaw was definitely a good news. "Are you alright, Alice?" Jasper still worriedly asked. "Yep. Today's gonna be a good day." She chirped and skipped when she reached the bottom of the stairs. Jasper just shook his head and smiled while the remaining Cullens just looked oddly at Alice. They supposed that if she's happy about what she saw, then it must not be bad. Edward tried to read her mind, but she just hummed a happy tune in her head, making his eyes narrow at her and making her smile widely at him. "We're just gonna have some transfers today. It'll definitely be really interesting." She answered his silent question cryptically. Edward just sighed and shrugged it off. It's not like it directly concerns him in any way. The Cullens made their way to their cars. Rosalie joined Emmett in his Wrangler-style Jeep, while Alice and Jasper used Rosalie's BMW M3 convertible. Edward alone entered his Volvo S60R Carlisle, already left earlier to the hospital where he works at on his Mercedes S55 AMG car. Esm just watched the kids go to Forks High School while smiling softly and went back inside their home. The Cullens arrived at the school at the same time with another sleek car that they haven't seen before. The students that usually wait for them to arrive are at the park, just with different reasons, because gossips of new transfer students are passed from to another, because their town is really small, and so information is easily acquired. As usual, the eyes of the students watch them as they stepped out of their vehicles, while they wait for the newcomer to come outside. The giddiness of the students is almost palpable in the air, because they are so excited to have a new face in their school, and some words said that one of the new students is really rich, proven by the car, and is really handsome. They can tolerate being at the school more if they'll have another eye candy, preferably if Hess friendly, unlike a certain group of inhumanly beautiful individuals that doesn't really associate with others. Emmett whistled lowly because, damn, is that really a Bugatti Chiron? Show off. Rosalie huffed while rolling her eyes. Whoa. That car looks real pretty. Alice said with her eyes twinkling in awe and delight, actually less for the car, but more so for the new student that they're still waiting to step out. But it really is pretty though, with its black color accompanied by 2 slashes of orange that runs from the roof down to the hoods. It looks elegant yet intimidating. Jasper nodded and just observed the car. Hess also waiting for the occupant to come outside. Edward just stared at the car in awe before he suddenly became confused. Why can't I hear him? Hear as in hear what Hess thinking. He just shrugged it off and told himself that perhaps it's because Hess not within earshot or within his field of distance. Alice just looked at him amusedly, which he saw at the corner of his eyes. He turned his attention to his sister with a questioning face and tried to read her mind, which were full of merry tunes, again. Edward just continued to look at her suspiciously before returning his eyes to the newcomer's car. Naruto finally arrived at Forks High School with his favorite car. Hess not supposed to use this car for everyday use because he wanted to use it for road racing, which he usually participated at with his fellow car enthusiasts before they moved to Forks. But since this is but a fairly small town, he doubted that many would own something that could compete with his car, so he decided to just use it instead of letting it collect dust at their home. You are already enrolled since we arranged your papers before we arrived yesterday. They mentioned that you just have to head straight to the registrar's office to get your schedule. Kurama said from their mental link. Kurama is still outside the seal because he don't want to get stuck with Naruto at school doing boring things, but they can still communicate telepathically through their Mindlink without worry for distance. They just have mobile phones for show since they still have to integrate themselves with other people. Yep, thanks Kura-chan. He said cheerfully and immediately knew that Kurama's embarrassed because, shut up, Gaki. Just go on your merry way and bless those students outside with your unattainable glory. You are taking too long to get out. Kurama huffed with a hint of sarcasm. Naruto looked outside his car because he didn't really care what the commotion was about and suddenly gulped because he realized that almost all the students at the park were looking at his car and are anticipating his exit. Kura-chan, is it too late to go back home? He asked numbly. Stop being so dramatic, the longer you take your sweet time inside, the more attention you raise. Kurama answered, and then, which does not really matter anymore. You already raised too much attention anyway. He smirked. Naruto whined, you're really mean, I know that. Can't you just support me and empathize with your dear kid? Kurama hummed for a few seconds as if Hess thinking deeply, and then, no. Now shoo, you are disturbing my peace. Naruto pet and readied himself for battle. So dramatic, indeed. Kurama added while smirking. You're really enjoying this, huh? Naruto deadpanned. Whatever do you mean, dear kid? Kurama asked with an unbelievable act of innocence. Naruto just pouted and reached for his phone and backpack. Hell, just act like Hess doing something with his phone so he doesn't have to interact with the waiting crowd. The driver's door of the car opened and some of the students watched with bated breath. The people facing the door gasped as they were the first ones who saw the glimpse of the transfer student, and the remaining students became intrigued, especially the Cullens, because Alice insisted that they wait for him to come out and seemed really excited. Well, why do we have to wait for him, Alice? Emmett asked cheerily. Alice just beamed at him but didn't answer. The person of interest of all students today finally stepped out of that beautiful car and the students gaped at him. Yes, even the Cullens. Naruto stood to his full height and swung his bag so he can wear it at his back. He kept his eyes at his phone and did some things to occupy his hand. He didn't look up because he doesn't really want to see the students' reaction to him. Wait, is that really a him? Emmett exclaimed. He didn't notice that his voice was rather loud until he heard some snickers with his sharp ears. He smiled sheepishly at Rosalie, who looked at him incredulously. Jasper just looked amused and is actually pretty hyped because of all the excitement that surrounds him. Alice just laughed heartily, and Edward just smiled at his antics and turned his attention back to the transfer student. The blonde still looking at his phone, but even he could see that the blonde-haired man is incredibly handsome, beautiful even, with his long golden hair tied in a low ponytail. Good thing that the school wasn't really strict for unusual appearances. And his smart yet casual look that consists of a pastel orange sweatshirt underneath a light brown coat, his black pants that fitted his legs perfectly, his rubber shoes that look sporty yet stylish, and his fair skin that seemed to be on the pale side, but is really slightly tanned on a closer look. On a closer look meant that Edward used his enhanced eyesight to look closely at him while still at a distance. All he can deduce is that, Hess, gorgeous. Now if only Hal look up so Edward could fully see his face. A gust of wind broke through his thoughts, however, and he got a wisp of a scent so good and so delicious, almost bordering on tantalizing, that he had to take a deep breath. It definitely smelled so great that he just wants to bury his nose to the source and inhale all the scent he could take, yet he doesn't have the desire to feed or drink, just to embrace, protect, and possess. He got out of his stupor and suddenly turned his head sharply to Alice that it almost made her cringe, because that got to hurt, right? But Alice knew why Hess looking at he. She just thought while looking at him happily, that guy's going to be my best friend. Edward contemplated what she thought and his eyes marginally widened when the realization hit him. He looked back at the new student again and stared at him to take in all of his appearance, as if he didn't do just that earlier. Jasper gasped when he felt what his brother was feeling. He felt confusion and shock mixed with longing, desire and possessiveness. It's all jumbled up that it's so confusing, and then suddenly, he puzzled it all together and also came to the same conclusion as Edward. Edward's mate. Emmett just stared at the blonde-haired man with an uncomfortable amount of time, then looked back at Rosalie, who despite her lack of expression, was obviously shocked. He pondered, is he also a vampire? I didn't think anyone could rival Rosalie's beauty until now. Maybe he also have her enhanced beauty ability. He looked back at the beautiful transfer student, but no, he could tell that Hess definitely not a vampire. He just couldn't help but come up with that thought because the moment that he stepped out of his car and stood up, the gloomy atmosphere of Forks seemed to brighten just a little. Emmett felt like he just brought the sun with him, or was he actually the sun incarnate? He shook himself to get his mind out of the gutter. Jasper looked worried for a second when he felt Emmett's emotional turmoil because they can't have someone be attracted to Edward's mate, especially one of his siblings. He didn't need to worry though, it looks like Emmett just really admired the beauty's looks because when he worked through all the emotions around him and focused on Emmett, he just felt wonder, admiration, and amazement. Rosalie was known to be vain, self-centered and shallow, fed by people's attention towards her because of her inhuman beauty, even when she was still a human, and it was enhanced even more when she turned to a vampire, making her stunning look stand out even amongst the cold ones. She's very materialistic and likes to have beautiful dresses, jewelry, and anything that could complement her beauty. She can be easily jealous if she found other people more attractive than her. That is, until now. The reason she's so shocked was because she already expected to feel the envy rolling of her cold skin at the sight of such a beautiful creature that's possibly even more gorgeous than she is. Yet as she continued to stare at him, she just felt like she found a kinship in another form. She doesn't understand herself either. She suddenly narrowed her eyes, it must have something to do with his humanity. No human can look like that. As she stared at him, she couldn't help but think that his sense of fashion is admirable, and she thought about what he was like when they shopped for clothes together. The idea almost made her giddy with anticipation. Naruto originally planned to never let his eyes astray from his phone, but he could feel their stares pass through his bones, especially on the side of people where could feel that weird aura. I could almost see your expression. Hilarious. Plus there's this voice in his head that constantly aims to make his miserable situation harder. Are you ignoring me? Suit yourself. Kurama laughed. Naruto just cut their connection and sighed in resignation. He raised his head to look at that particular direction with a weird atmosphere. His breath got caught in his throat, however, when his huge cerulean eyes locked with the man's creamy and golden eyes. The man's intense gaze made him stare at it next to his car and just stared at him. He swore those eyes turned darker as the moment goes by, and that seemed to wake him up from his trance and narrowed his eyes at the man suspiciously. Kurama, I could feel something different from that group. Make sure that you also memorize their appearance so you know when you stumble with them. Kurama noticed the seriousness of his tone and looked at the target people through Naruto's eyes. Even though he can get out of his seal, Kurama still have the connection with Naruto that allows him to have an access through his senses. He only does this whenever the situation calls for it because even if Hess a big ball of mischief, he still respects his privacy, as how Naruto respects his. Yes, they definitely look odd, and their chakra differs to the students other than them. Be careful around them. Kurama said seriously. When they left the elemental nations, they immediately took notice of the chakra of the people of the outside. It's smaller and not enough to perform any jutsu, it's even smaller than the civilians from their home, but it's still there. That's why they knew that something weird is going on with those pretty individuals, because they can feel that their chakra is stronger than others. There's still something odd about them other than that though, they just can't point it out. Okay, Kura-chan. See you when I get back. Yes, yes. Now go away and take care. Naruto smiled softly because even if he doesn't show it, he could feel Kurama's worry. He abruptly turned away from the man and headed to the school building so he can already get his schedule. He doesn't want to be late on his first day and attract more attention than he already have. Which doesn't really matter since the students outside still watched his every move. Ugh, can't they get any more obvious? He huffed. The Cullens felt more shocked than they have when the newcomer turned his head towards them. They didn't let it show on their faces though. When they thought that he was real pretty with his head down, then he definitely is bordering on angelic now. His blue eyes seem to pierce at their undead and not beating hearts. And he also has whiskers. That should have been unfair because how can someone look so pretty, handsome and cute at the same time? The first one to get back to alertness was Jasper when he felt a sudden spike of Edward's emotion, and when he looked at his brother, he noticed how his eyes were getting darker which screamed hunger, but not for blood. Hess practically oozing the desire to take something. Jasper could almost choke in Edward's possessiveness. The transfer student then turned away from their group to head to school. Emmett, Rosalie and Alice also came back from their stupor because they immediately looked at Edward Woes, moving already to follow the blonde. Hess, turning away. My mate's getting away. Must get him. Edward chanted in his mind which was heard by his adoptive siblings due to his loss of control over his thoughts and ended up sharing it through their mind link. What? Emmett exclaimed and immediately took hold of Edward, who growled lowly at him for trying to get in his way. How dare you? Get out of my way. Edward hissed. Rosalie was shocked for a moment and sprang to help in holding Edward back when Alice decided to do so. Jasper stepped in front of Edward and looked directly in his eyes and sent waves of soothing emotions to calm him down. The transfer student was already inside the building and a few minutes later, Edward's eyes slowly turned from dark brown back to topaz. He stopped struggling from his siblings' hold once he realized what he was doing. To outside, they look like they're just trying to hug Edward, but it's really not the case. Emmett released him first when he saw Edward as calmed down. Then, Rosalie and finally Alice. Jasper just continued what he was doing as to avoid Edward from losing his control again. When he felt that Edward has finally calmed down he asked, "Are you alright now?" Edward nodded, "Yeah. Sorry for acting like that," he said apologetically. "Ah, no worries. The rush of emotions is overwhelming since our kind don't really feel emotion so strong. It's normal for us to be like that when we meet our mates." Jasper whispered to placate him. "Mate. My mate. I finally met my mate," Edward thought as he recalled his mate's angelic features. His gaze was becoming glassy until Rosalie drawled, "Well, as much as I hate attending classes, I don't like to be too late and we're already late enough as it is." She put her arm around Emmett's waist as he put his arm around her shoulders and stirred her to their room. Alice linked her arm to one of Jasper's and followed them inside. Edward took his time walking to clear his thoughts and calm his undead heart down. The day was just starting and many interesting things already happened. He wondered if the day's going to be more exciting. But for now, Hell just continued to think about his mate and wished that he can be at all his classes. With all the attention directed towards the gorgeous blonde earlier, no one seemed to notice the beat-up truck that came after. A part of it actually exploded when one named Isabella Swan parked it. She was glad, however, that no one paid her any attention. She would appreciate a peaceful high school life without bullies, thank you very much. She also stared for a few minutes at the blonde and understood why it seemed like every student around stopped moving just to look at him. Hess really pretty, though. Shaking her head to clear her mind, she started to walk slowly towards the registrar's office to get her schedule. Someone named Eric flocked to her side to introduce himself and that Hess the eyes and ears of the school. She didn't really want to deal with him so she was glad when she finally reached the office. Once she got all that she needed, she opened the door and went out of the room. Let's see, she thought as she read her schedule. English with Mr. Mason at Building 3, Government with Mr. Jefferson at Building 6, Trigonometry with Mr. Varner at Building 5, Gym with Mr. Clapp at Building 7. She almost bumped into someone while she was still looking at her schedule. When she looked up, she gasped softly. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you," the man said while smiling sheepishly, mistaking her gasp for shock. "It's the blonde from earlier. Hess even prettier up close," she thought as she stared at him. "They are also new, right? I'm Naruto, I hope we can be friends," Naruto said as he smiled, making his bright eyes twinkle. It's unfair how someone could look like that, she thought. She startled out of her thoughts when Naruto suddenly waved a hand in front of her. "Yoo-hoo. You still there?" She coughed, how embarrassing. While blushing slightly, yes sorry about that. Bella, by the way. I don't mind being friends. She said. She hesitated a bit because being friends with him will surely bring attention towards her too, and God knows how much she hates attention. But, he looks like a really nice guy, though, not just for his features, mind you, but there's just something about him that seems really genuine. Great. You continue where you're off to. See you later. Naruto chirped as he smiled brightly and waved goodbye. Bella smiled and waved back. And Hess really cheerful to boot too, it's refreshing. She thought as her nervousness lessened at this encounter. Bella was now in her gym uniform for gym class. The girls were to play volleyball while the guys play basketball. Ugh, I don't even do sports. She thought as she avoided the volleyball like a plague. There was this enthusiastic team captain though, I think her name's Jessica. Look at Chloe. Yeah. Good attack. Jessica shouted. Unfortunately for Bella, the volleyball headed towards her. She panicked and tried to bump it only to go out of court and smack a basketball player at the back of his head. Ow. He yelped as he softly rubbed his head. Bella hurried to him, are you alright? I warned them not to make me play. She said embarrassedly. Hey, it's only a flesh wound. The guy grinned. The bell rang, indicating that gym's over. You're Isabella, right? The guy asked. Just Bella. She said. I'm Mike Newton. Nice meeting you, just Bella. He joked. Bella smiled, obviously relieved that Mike wasn't mad. Suddenly, Jessica appeared between them. She nudged Mike, Shess got a great spike, doesn't she? Then she turned to Bella, so, you're from Arizona, right? Aren't people supposed to be tan down there? She asked. Maybe that's why they kicked me out. Bella shrugged. Mike laughed and Jessica joined him, albeit a bit forced. Bella just grimaced lightly when she noticed how fake Jessica's laugh was. Bella, along with Jessica and Mike, carried their trays of food to a table. Eric appeared and squishes to the seat next to Bella. Mike, you met my homegirl Bella. Eric said. Your homegirl? Mike said appalled. People could practically see line of sparks as they glared at each other. It's first grade all over again, and you're the shiny new toy. Jessica said while smiling softly. Shess inwardly jealous because of the attention that Bella's getting. The flash momentarily blinded Bella. When she looked up, there was a girl wearing glasses. She sheepishly lowered her camera and said, sorry, needed a candid for the feature. Teacher's dead, Angela. Don't bring it up again. Eric interrupted. Disheartened, Angela just said, guess we'll just run another editorial on teen drinking. Bella hummed, there's always eating disorders or speedo padding on the swim team. Wait. That's a good one. Angela said happily. Suddenly, the double doors of the cafeteria swung open and 4 people walked in. It's as if the world was in slow motion as Bella watched how they share the same pale skin, purplish shadows under their eyes, and yet, they're all inhumanly beautiful. Even the way they walked were so graceful. They sat at the furthest table beside the wall. Bella leans over Jessica and Angela, who are they? The Cullens. Angela said. Jessica leaned in too, forgetting how Shess kinda mad at Bella, Dr. and Mrs. Cullen's foster kids. They all moved down here from Alaska 2 years ago. Angela added, they kinda keep to themselves. Jessica continued, because they're all together. Like, together. The blonde girl, Rosalie, and the big dark-haired guy, Emmett, they turned towards the pair. Bella watched Rosalie, with her long wavy blonde hair and model-like figure, walked confidently, alongside Emmett with his big brawny body like a weightlifter, but with that mischievous glint in his eyes. They're a thing. I'm not even sure if that's legal. Jessica continued. Angela turned towards her, Jess, they're not actually related. She berated. But they live together. She rebuffed. And the little dark-haired girl, Alice, Shess really weird, she mumbled the last part, Shess with Jasper, the blonde who looks like Hess in pain. Bella turned towards Alice and Jasper and noticed how she looks playful, with her small stature and her short pixie hair hovering over Jasper's tall and lean build who has that honey blonde hair. I mean, Dr. Cullen's like this foster dad/matchmaker. Jessica huffily added. Maybe he'll adopt me. Angela sighed dreamily. Bella just laughed but stopped short when the last Cullen entered. With all his attractive glory, broody yet mysterious in a way that Hess inwardly turned, who looked striking and more handsome than everyone she saw. Was he? She asked. That's Edward Cullen, Jessica answered. Edward suddenly looks over at their table, as if he heard Jessica all across the cafeteria, which should be impossible because they're like, a few tables away. He looked confused as his eyes met Bella's. She looked away immediately. Hess totally gorgeous, obviously. But apparently, no one here is good enough for him. Like I care. Bella noticed that she obviously does. Anyway, don't waste your time. Jessica added. I wasn't planning on it. Bella said as she peeked discreetly at him. She might have expected that Hess still staring at her but then, Hess not. Hess staring intensely at something and she followed his gaze and saw how his eyes were trained at the farthest corner of the cafeteria. She tried to squint her eyes at that part because it's too far and kind of dark. As she continued to stare, she could finally make up the long blonde hair that she have come to associate with Naruto, who has that unique shade of blonde. She planned on calling him over to join them at their table, but realized that he might want to be alone, for now. He must have been overwhelmed at the parking lot and maybe for all the classes that he took. She shuddered when she thought herself to be in his position. Poor Naruto. She thought. Too bad we didn't have the same classes earlier. She arrived at her next class, which was biology 2. She took a deep breath before knocking and slowly opened the door. Oh. You're the new student, right? Here, your textbooks. Bob Banner, just call me Mr. Banner. The teacher said as he handed Bella her textbooks. Well, say your name to the class. He urged. Bella faced the class. Isabella Swan, but just call me Bella. She said with a small smile. Where to put you? Mr. Banner hummed as he looked over at his class. Ah. You can sit beside Edward. Mr. Cullen, raise your hand please. He raised his hand reluctantly. Bella looked at him and had to raise an eyebrow because she saw how he hesitated, but decided not to. I don't think I did something bad, anyway. She thought while heading to the vacant seat beside Edward. When someone entered the room, Edward stiffened and looked quickly at the girl who introduced herself as Bella. This is bad. I just met my mate earlier, and now my singer. He couldn't handle the instinct that throws him off when he smelled her scent. If earlier, the urge he got when he smelled his mate made him want to do anything to protect him, the scent that this girl is emitting made him want to sink his fangs and suck her blood dry. That's what made him realize she's his singer. In short, his mate makes him calm and light and all that mushy stuff, while a singer does the complete opposite, it brings out the monster in him. So, when Mr. Banner told the class that Belle is to sit beside him, Hess really reluctant to raise his hand. The girl must have sensed this because he saw how one of her eyebrows twitched. When she moved to sit beside him, he had to grab the edge of the desk to control his urges that his knuckles turned even wider. Hess putting a noticeable dent at the desk, but he didn't care, no one saw anyway. He just wanted to get as far away as possible from her, so he scooted away from her while using his other hand to cover his nose. When Bella looked at her seatmate because she noticed how Hess behaving oddly at the corner of her eyes, Hess left agape. How rude, she thought as she noticed how he glared at her when he put his clenched fist to cover his nose. She discreetly sniffed her hair. I can still smell the shampoo I used. I don't smell bad, do I? She hesitantly thought. But then, someone knocked at the door and when it opened, her dim thought suddenly brightened. It's Naruto. Yes. We're classmates. I'm glad to finally have him as one. She thought happily. Oh? You're another one of the new students, right? I'm Bob Banner, just call me Mr. Banner. Introduce yourself at the class, please. He said as he faced the newcomer. Hello. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, you can call me Naruto. Nice to meet you. He chirped as he smiled brightly. Almost all of the students cooed how adorable he looked, smiling brightly like that. When Naruto turned his gaze to study everyone in the room secretly, his eyes immediately zoomed in on Bella, who noticed this and waved slightly at him while smiling softly. Oh, it's Bella. He gasped lowly but still cheerful and waved back at her with his smile still in place. Mr. Banner saw this and noticed how there's a huge gap between Mr. Cullen and Ms. Swan. He already knows Ms. Bella. You already know Ms. Swan, correct? Mr. Banner asked just to make sure as he turned to look at Naruto once again. Yep. We met earlier. Naruto said happily. Well, grab a chair and put it beside her. It's nice to have you in our class. Yes. Thank you, sir. Naruto replied cheerfully. That made Mr. Banner smile slightly. It's nice to have cheerful students at my class. He thought. Naruto grabbed a spare chair at the corner of the room and dragged it beside Bella. He put it between Bella and her other seatmate. Hi Bella. I'm glad we finally have classes together now. Naruto said cheerfully but with a lower voice now. Yep, I'm glad too. Bella said while also smiling. She then turned her head at the front and ignored how Naruto introduced himself to their other seatmate. She doesn't care about their rude classmate anyway, even if Hess inhumanly handsome. Edward visibly brightened meant that he just smiled softly when the one who knocked revealed to be his mate. Yes. Hess here. He looked at Bella at the corner of his eye. I wish it was him beside me, not her. He thought gloomily. Hi. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, you can call me Naruto. Nice to meet you. His mate introduced himself. Naruto Uzumaki. Is he Japanese? He mentally noted as he watched his every move, his name oddly suited him. For a moment, he thought that he was the one. Naruto looked at happily. He almost smiled again, but then he heard his lowered voice with his advanced hearing. Oh, it's Bella. What? They know each other. How? He thought grumpily. He heard Mr. Banner and his mate talk for a second, but he ignored it because of his thoughts. His thoughts, however, screeched to a halt when he saw his mate dragging a chair towards his desk. What? Hess sitting here? Really? Yes. He thought happily. If Jasper was in the same room as him, he would have laughed at him for all kinds of emotion that he could feel radiating from Edward, which would have been so embarrassing. Edward can't help but inhale the scent of his mate, which immediately soothed and calmed him down and alleviated his unwanted urge to drink from Bella. Naruto turned towards him after talking with Bella. "Hi. I'm Naruto. You are?" he asked imploringly as he smiled slightly at Edward while raising one of his hand for a handshake. Damn. Even his voice is nice and Hess even more gorgeous up close. His eyes are the bluest ones I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. Hess really beautiful. I could stare at him all day. Edward mentally sighed as he stared at Naruto. Naruto coughed, his hand still raised. Sorry. I don't know what got to me. Edward stammered when he was suddenly shaken up from his stupor. So embarrassing. He thought as he raised his hand to shake Naruto's. Edward Cullen. Naruto felt how Edward's hand was cold to the touch, but just noted it down for further observation and showed no reaction about it. It's nice to meet you, Edward. Naruto said instead while smiling softly. Edward had to resist a shiver when he heard Naruto say his name with that soft smile of his. It's nice to meet you too, Naruto. He replied just as softly. When they turned their attention back to the front of the class, or in this case just Naruto, Edward continued to stare at him at the corner of his eyes, so he wasn't that obvious. He can't help but inwardly sigh again about how his mate looked so perfect. Naruto on the other hand also found Edward very attractive. More attractive than most people that he met, even more so than Sasuke, and that's saying a lot because Sasuke was the handsomest guy in his generation, well, according to his fangirls anyway. But still, with his great facial features, a straight nose, pale but full lips, a strong jawline, high cheekbones, heck, even his eyebrows are perfect. Although he has purplish shadows under his eyes, it's overwhelmed by his golden eyes that Naruto couldn't help but think how his eyes have the most beautiful color that he have seen on someone. He would have stared at him if it wasn't so embarrassing, good thing that he has an eidetic memory. He imagined himself running his hand through that unruly hair that has that unusual bronze shade, just to see if it's soft as it looks. He shook himself to clear his thoughts. What's happening to me? I feel weird about him. Dunno if it's a good weird or a bad weird though. He inwardly sighed. Someone has a puppy crush. Kurama interjected. Kura-chan. I'm serious. It's not a puppy crush, I haven't felt like this before. There's this pull that I can't explain, but I feel it towards him. Oh ho, in love already, are we? I know you are an impatient gaki, but I did not know you are that impatient. No. I can't explain it. It must have something to do with that odd feeling around them. You know I don't just fall in love with someone at first contact. You know me too well for that. Naruto mentally chided. Yes, I know. But it is just fun teasing you that I could not help it. Let us talk properly once you are back. For now, focus on your studies. Kurama said while mentally waving him off. Wow, you're acting much like a father right now. Shut up. Yeah. Naruto sighed. Naruto looked at Edward at the corner of his eye once again, but his eye caught the hand-shaped dent under one of Edward's hand. Didn't know someone could be that strong. He narrowed his eyes. Hell, just note it for future reference. The bell rang, signaling the dismissal of class. Naruto, with his already organized stuff, decided to help Bella with hers and pulled her up immediately to go outside. They are already a good distance from the room when, wait. Why are we in a hurry? Bella asked him in a surprised tone. Naruto turned her around, took hold of her shoulders and seriously said, Bella, we're transfer students, meaning we're new. If I didn't pull us out of that room, we won't be able to get out at all. Bella momentarily froze and imagined Naruto and her being hounded questions after questions, never able to get out of the room and could possibly be stuck with that arrogant prick. It must have also been the reason why she saw Naruto purposely trying to make himself unnoticeable at the cafeteria earlier. She looked steadily at Naruto. You know what? I like you already. Thanks for your quick thinking. Bella said gratefully. Naruto just beamed. Welcome. What's your next class? He asked when they continued to walk. Well, let's see, Bella hummed as she rummaged her bag for her paper. Unbeckonings to them, Edward just stared dejectedly at the now empty chair of his mate. Hess fast, it'll give him that. But I didn't get to talk at him at all besides our names, damn it, he thought as he got outside as well and tried to look for Naruto, really fast. He said when he didn't see the distinct shade of blonde hair that Naruto have. Suddenly, someone patted his shoulder and said, where's your Mr. Pretty Guy? Alice asked cheerfully then coughed, I mean, Mr. Very Pretty Guy. He got out of the room with someone before me. Edward said while frowning. What? You let him get away? With someone? You? Someone asked incredulously. Emmett? Yes, that's what happened, alright. But I won't let it happen again. Edward said determinedly. That's my man. Emmett cheered. Don't worry, Alice patted his shoulder again, he'll help you. Did you get his name, at least? Rosalie suddenly appeared. I didn't expect you to be the first one to ask that, Rosalie. Jasper interjected, who also appeared suddenly beside Alice. Rosalie huffed, just answer me. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. Edward said and recalled how warm his hand was. He should have held it longer. Plus, his eyes. They're really more beautiful closely. Lo. Edward. Edward. Emmett almost shouted. Geez dude. Get your mind out of the gutter. He almost huffed. If Edward could blush, he would have turned red from embarrassment. Ah yes. Sorry, I get distracted easily. No shit. Emmett said. Naruto Uzumaki. He doesn't look Japanese though. Jasper pondered. Well, yes. I planned to ask him that when the class ended, but he ran out with the other transfer student. Edward sighed. That other transfer student is my singer. He added in their mendlink. They all inhaled sharply, except for Alice, because duh, seer. Edward turned to Alice, you knew that it'll meet both of them, right? You could have said something so I can at least be prepared. Oh, where's the fun with that? Alice thought rather cheerfully. Edward just sighed. That's the same year as us, so both of us have more chance to get closer to him. I actually have him in some of my classes earlier, but he looked like he doesn't want to deal with any more questioning, so I let him go. Alice hummed, no need to be so glum. She hastily added. That's unfair, Emmett whined, we should have just enrolled for the same year, so we could also have him as a classmate. He added dejectedly. Rosalie inwardly agreed. Jasper just looked at her weirdly because Rosalie liking someone, a human at that, enough to have her agree to that statement. That's new. You said y'all help. How do you plan on doing that? Edward asked instead. You don't need to concern yourself with that. I have my ways. Alice winked and hummed a merry tune in her head to prevent Edward from knowing what she have in mind. Edward just narrowed his eyes at her, then sighed in resignation, just go to your class, will you? Aw. You're no fun. Alice pouted. Jasper just dragged her away as she complained. Well, good luck brother. It seems like your mate is extremely evasive contrary to how he looks. Emmett tried to comfort him. Rosalie just pulled him away. Edward sighed for the 100th time that day. Do you really have a plan? Jasper hesitated. Why you don't believe me? I'm hurt. Alice pouted. No. I believe you. I just want to make sure because Edward seemed really down earlier. He really wanted to talk to him after class. Don't worry. Our elusive friend is actually going this way. Alice said as they turned to a corner. Naruto was looking at the direction written on his paper for his last subject. He has the same subject with Bella, but they separated for now because Bella needed to do something and urged him to go first. It would be embarrassing to tell Naruto that she have to go to the bathroom. Naruto let her go, not really knowing the reason, but it seemed really important, so here he was. Still looking down at his paper when he turned to a corner. A girl suddenly appeared and he expertly maneuvered himself to avoid bumping into her. He immediately stepped sideways and continued his walk. He didn't expect to have someone bump into him almost immediately after the first girl, so it took him by surprise. Alice would have pouted because of that if she didn't see what will happen next. Failed, almost. She thought happily. When Alice suddenly walked faster when they're approaching the corner, Jasper hurried after her but still didn't reach her in time when she almost bumped into someone. Seeing that it was indeed the blonde-haired beauty, he suddenly understood what Alice was doing. He also took notice how Naruto expertly removed himself from possible harm and noted it for future questioning. He didn't even look up. He bumped successfully into him. Jasper would have felt sorry for him if it wasn't for the fact that instead of Naruto, he was the one who almost fell if not for the hand that took hold of him. What? How? He frantically thought. Whoa. Sorry. I wasn't looking where I was headed. Naruto said sheepishly as he steadied Jasper. Jasper broke out of his thoughts and looked down at the blonde, was obviously shorter than him, yet his hold was too strong for someone of that height. He thought. No, it's alright. I was trying to catch up with her, Jasper said as he pointed at Alice who went back to their direction, so we're both at fault. He added with a small smile. Jasper liked Naruto's presence. It's almost the same with Alice, where he felt most calm. He didn't expect humans like him to still exist, someone who didn't emit dark emotions. Jasper, having the ability of pathokinesis, is an expert in sensing hidden emotions. He encountered many people who can control their own emotions to hide their real intentions, that's why he practiced in sensing emotions on a deeper level. He sensed that Naruto is pure on a level that has not someone who is desperate, just determined, and that has selfish in a way that's not greedy, just selfish enough to not be a pushover. Jasper can't say that he like him already. Yeah, but still, you're not hurt, are you? Naruto asked as he tried to look Jasper for any injury. First day and I already hurt someone. He inwardly sighed. No, I'm really okay. Just let it go. He tried to calm him by sending calming emotions. Naruto almost stiffened but didn't show it. Kura-chan. Hess trying to do something. It's like when we exude killing intent but the other way around. I knew something was going on. He said through their mendlink. Kurama hummed, an empath. How utterly interesting. You need not worry, Naru-chan. You can expel it like how you expel a genjutsu. He tried to placate him by using his nickname, equal to what Naruto gave him. Don't call me Naru-chan. Only if you stop calling me Kura-chan. Never. Then so would I. Naruto sighed, I guess Hess not bad. He just tried to calm me down. Like I need some calming. He huffed. This conversation just took a few seconds with outside's point of view. Naruto made it so with seals, so they would be able to communicate without alerting someone. It didn't work. How very curious. Jasper pondered. Well, it's because knew here that worried that I might have caused trouble on the first day. Naruto Uzumaki, by the way. Just Naruto is fine. He said cheerfully. We know already. Both vampires thought. Jasper and this one, he said as he pulled Alice towards him, as Alice. Hey. I was gonna introduce myself. Alice interjected while pouting. Jasper just looked at her amusedly while Naruto tried to stifle a giggle. This girl seems like fun. It's nice to meet you both. I think you might be one of my classmates earlier in some of my classes, Alice. Naruto said while putting his index finger and thumb under his chin, trying to recall his classes earlier. Alice almost squealed at his cuteness, yup. I was actually gonna introduce myself, but you looked like you didn't want to be put on the spot. So, I didn't. Alice cheerfully said. Naruto blushed a light pink color and said, am I that obvious? So cute. Alice thought to Jasper through their minds. Jasper smiled slightly. Yep, but I don't mind. Alice said instead. Thanks. I just got tired with all the questioning, so that's why I must have looked unapproachable. Naruto said sheepishly. We also wanted to ask you a bunch of things though. Alice inwardly pouted to Jasper, who just smirked. No worries, Naruto. She said in a cheerful voice. Naruto looked at his watch. I'm glad to know you guys, but I'm gonna be late. Let's talk tomorrow in our classes, Alice. He said hurriedly. He waved goodbye cheerfully and Alice returned the wave just as enthusiastic until Naruto turned away. Both of them just watched Naruto walk away despite being late themselves. Alice turned to Jasper and smirked, still don't believe me? Jasper just sighed as he put his arm around her shoulders. You have the oddest ways of doing things. He said while shaking his head. Thanks. Alice said happily. Jasper stared at her with a look that clearly said that wasn't supposed to be a compliment. You could have just talked to him normally, you know. He chided. But where's the fun in that? She huffed, and it worked anyway. It seems like life at Forks will be more interesting since Naruto's arrival, they mused. It's already been weeks ever since Naruto has transferred to Forks High, and boy, was he tired. Some students, if not all, still hound him relentlessly. His only saving grace was the few true friends he made, mainly Bella, Alice and maybe Jasper. Talking to them was like a breath of fresh air. Hey, Naruto. Alice said cheerfully as she barreled towards him. Speak of the devil. Naruto groaned at the impact. Ugh, hey Alice. Still don't want to go to class. He smiled brightly. They still have a lot of time before class starts. Alice clung to his arm, yup. But first, I want you to meet the gang. She beamed. He didn't mind the close contact. The gang. He said curiously. He turned around to find who Alice was talking about. Uh-huh. I kinda left them though, heh. I just ran when I saw you. But don't worry. They're gonna catch up to us soon. She said sheepishly. Naruto just laughed. Oh, is Jaws with them? Indeed I am. Someone said closely behind him. Naruto almost yelped, almost being the keyword, gah. Don't sneak up on me. He did jump though. I could have sworn someone's not there a second ago. Apologies. I didn't think you were the jumpy type. Jasper smirked, obviously unapologetic. Hello to you too, Jasper. Naruto huffed. You made him pout. Hess so cute. Alice giggled through their midlink. Jasper laughed lightly. Naruto roamed his eyes and found the gang. Oh. Edward's with you too? He asked them. Yep. You already met him? Alice chirped. Of course she knew that Naruto met Edward already. He didn't have to know that though. Yep. Hess in some of my classes. Naruto beamed. Then he murmured in a contemplative tone, actually, Hess in most of my classes. Alice just smiled at him innocently. Actually, Edward practically threatened the one who manages the schedule to put him in your classes. When the rest of the group neared them, Naruto greeted, hi Edward. He chirped, good to see ya. Edward just stared at him in awe. Hess with my family. Does he like them? And he let his hair down today. It suits him. Naruto nudged Jasper, hey Jaws. Does Edward have an attention disorder or something? I swear Hess always like that. He whispered conspiratorially. The vampires heard him, of course. Emmett strained to stop himself from laughing. Jasper looked at him and coughed, no, not that I know of. Alice elbowed Edward's side none too gently. He was forced to get out of his thoughts as he grumbled, ow, Alice. Edward looked at Naruto properly, good morning Naruto. He smiled lightly, and yes, it's good to see you too. Really good. Morning. Naruto chirped, Suo. Gonna introduce me to the rest of the gang. Alice nudged Edward again, so Hess the one to do the deed, you already know Alice and Jasper. These two are Emmett and Rosalie. He gestured towards them. Then he said, and this is Naruto. My beloved mate. Was left unsaid. Emmett saluted, nice to meet ya, little Naruto. He grinned. Naruto spluttered, little not little. You're just too big. He accused while pouting. Emmett just laughed boisterously. Naruto just huffed, well, it's nice to meet you too Teddy. It's Emmett's turn to splutter, Teddy. Yeah, 'cause you're like a bear. I would call you Grizzly, but Teddy suits you better. He nodded to himself. Emmett just laughed again, I like him. He told the Cullens in their mindlink. Edward smiled fondly at Naruto, Alice giggled, and Jasper just smirked lightly. Naruto then turned to Rosalie and stared at her in awe, whoa. Are you a celebrity? I think I could recognize you. He asked genuinely curious. Rosalie would have turned pink if she was capable, so instead she just huffed with a hint of pride, no, I'm not. But I admit, I do look like one. She flipped her hair on her shoulder. The rest of the Cullens gaped slightly at her. Normally, Rosalie would just roll her eyes and ignore it when someone asked her that and believe them when they say that it happens almost every time. Naruto asked disbelievingly, huh? Yeah or not? I actually thought you attend Forks just so you can get away from the press. Rosalie smiled, obviously happy with what Naruto had said, well, no, not really. Naruto looked at her and hummed, are you a model, then? Your clothes are all designer clothes and obviously of high quality. You know this brand? Rosalie asked surprised. Even her maid and adopted brothers don't care for the brand of clothes as long as they're wearable. PSH, men. Yeah, I do. Naruto said cheerfully. I like shopping clothes so I know almost all brands. Now that you mention it, we can go shopping next time. You too Alice. I noticed that you're very fashionable too. Naruto said like he found kinship with these two women when it comes to fashion. Don't get him wrong, Kurama is a really nice shopping buddy since Hess the one who influenced Naruto into buying good clothes in the first place, but it would be nice if he would just stop frowning and scaring people away whenever they go outside. I'm in. Alice chirped while hopping excitedly. Rosalie just huffed, HMP. I don't mind. Shess inwardly happy since Shess not used to someone asking her to go shopping just for the sake of shopping. Plus, Emmett always looked reluctant that she had to force him to come with. The male Cullens are officially stumped. Rosalie doesn't do shopping with humans. They walked to the campus and Naruto noticed the students staring weirdly at them. Why are they staring at you guys? Naruto asked stupefied. Emmett laughed, no, I think they're staring at you, little Naruto. Naruto ignored the name since it looks like Emmett won't stop anytime soon. He asked, but I didn't do anything bad though. Why would you assume that you did something bad? Jasper interjected. Naruto blushed lightly, embarrassed for the slip-up, I'm kinda like a prankster. And I always prank someone before, so I just thought that I didn't prank anyone here to receive such reactions. He smirked almost evilly, yet. The Cullens just looked at him in shock for a second, then Emmett just laughed loudly. He patted him on his back, we're gonna be great friends. Naruto smiled brightly, I like this Emmett guy. Edward suddenly spoke so he can also talk with Naruto, I didn't expect you to be a prankster. You always seem so calm and elegant. Naruto gaped at him in shock, elegant people from where I came from would have laughed at that. Far cry from elegant. Edward wanted to ask him about where he came from so he could know Naruto better but stopped since they're still not that close, really. The way you dress speaks otherwise and also the way you walk gracefully. You're also really calm when talking with others. He muttered as he stared at him, not realizing that he sounded like a stalker. Emmett and Alice stifled their laughs, Jasper just glanced to the side, and Rosalie just looked like Shess embarrassed to have Edward as her adopted brother. Naruto just exclaimed, wow, you're actually quite observant. He said it like he couldn't believe it, you're always staring into space so I thought that you have an attention disorder or something. Whenever we talk, you have, like, an attention span of a gnat. He said offhandedly. Emmett and Alice didn't even bother to hold it in anymore and laughed loudly, startling students around them. Jasper chuckled and Rosalie smirked. She didn't expect Edward's mate would roast him. Edward looked like he wanted to die, which was really funny considering Hess already dead, I apologize. I'm just out of sorts these days. He said almost shy. Naruto hummed, I don't really mind. You make quite a funny sight, it's kinda hilarious. He giggled. It's official. Edward's adopted siblings would like to take Naruto back into their home. Great. I've made a fool out of myself. He thinks him hilarious. Good job Edward. Edward sighed inwardly. But seriously. Why are they staring? Naruto asked. It's because you're with us. Edward answered. Trying to gain back some resemblance of dignity. Naruto frowned, because I'm with you? Elaborate, please. It's because they are not used to us being with someone else other than with each other. Edward answered. So, you're like a close-knit group or something like that. Naruto tilted his head cutely, his long hair followed his movement. Alice squealed slightly at his adorableness, and Rosalie looked like she wants to pinch Naruto's cheeks. Edward almost got transfixed but immediately straightened himself. Hess trying to make a good impression, damn it. Actually, we're family. Our parents adopted all of us. Edward replied. Oh. You're Cullen, right? Naruto asked Edward, who looked really happy for his mate's attention on him, as he nodded a yes. You're all Cullens, then. Does that mean you're all siblings? Yes and no. Edward said cryptically, albeit a bit nervous. Is it alright if I tell him about your relationships? He asked through their mindlink. His adopted siblings hesitated, but nodded nonetheless. Time for the moment of truth, well not all truth, like their vampire's truth, but still a sensitive information, nonetheless. Plus, the school knew about this anyway. They're just reluctant because of Naruto's would-be reaction. Naruto seemed confused, what do you mean by that? We're siblings, yes, but not all of us. Alice and Jasper are together, and so are Rosalie and Emmett. Naruto hummed. The Cullens tense slightly as they wait for his reaction. Most people will not take such an unconventional information positively. You mean together like lovers? Naruto asked Edward. Gah. That's why Alice and Jasper seemed really close. I feel so dumb now. He grumbled inwardly. Edward nodded stiffly. Really? Sugoi. Naruto accidentally slipped to his native language, then slowly asked, you mean to tell me that you get to live with your lovers, and also your family, in the same house, for like, all the time? He questioned excitedly. Yes. Edward said uncertainly and his adopted siblings also looked confused. That's really awesome. Being with the people you love every day is really nice. Naruto said, obviously happy. The Cullens are left awestruck. They didn't expect a reaction that positive and they're really happy that Naruto took the news in such a carefree manner. Wait, so you're not weirded out? Emmett asked almost vulnerable. He usually doesn't care about what other people say, but Naruto's different. Hess Edward's mate and most likely will be part of the family soon. Emmett just wanted him to accept his family as they are. Naruto asked confused, why would I be? Emmett just grinned, nah, never mind, little Naruto. Rosalie on his side smiled almost softly at Naruto. But I think I understand why you asked that. Your family structure isn't really common, after all. Some people reacted rather rudely, is that correct? Naruto asked and turned at them for confirmation. Emmett nodded slightly and Naruto continued, well, I say they're judgmental and feeble-minded. Don't mind people who can't even formulate an insightful opinion. He said seriously. The Cullens were just shocked that someone would say something like that wholeheartedly. It's like Naruto knew the feeling of being judged without reason too well. How right they were with that. But wait. Naruto suddenly turned to Edward, you didn't mention a lover. You don't have one? Edward was taken aback and coughed, no, I don't. Naruto stared at him in disbelief. You're joking, right? With a face like that. And a body like that. And you're actually quite nice too. How could you, of all people, not have a lover? He looked almost livid. Edward's adopted siblings snickered at him when they saw his reaction. His jaw seemed stuck open and a look of shock was on his face, and they swore he would have turned impossibly red if he wasn't a vampire. He just thought, how forward. Then, Naruto continued as if he didn't just blurt something so bold, but don't worry. I'm sure you'll meet your special someone soon too. He patted his head and smiled so softly it made Edward feel like his undead heart beat thunderously in his chest. Yes. I already met him. He thought. The rest of the Cullens didn't know if they'll feel happy for Edward or pity him. But at least he already met his mate. If he would just make a damn move already, it's been weeks and Hess still doing nothing. Some vampire he is. Well, as much as I wanted to stay and talk with you guys, I'm afraid classes will start soon. Naruto said almost sadly. He turned to Jasper, Jaws. I'm gonna borrow Alice for now, okay? Alright. As long as you return her. Jasper smiled. Of course. It's also really nice to meet you all. See you guys later. Naruto said as he grabbed Alice's arm. Alice just giggled and let herself be pulled by him as they ran to their room. I like him. Emmett exclaimed cheerfully. Yes, we get it. You've already said that countless of times. Rosalie drawled, but she too felt the same. I think both Esme and Carlyle will love him. Jasper mused. I think so too. Edward mumbled as he watched Naruto's back. Word spread quickly in Forks High that the gorgeous Blondie are friends with the Cullens. The group of inhumanly beautiful people who didn't take a second glance at others just added another person who was as beautiful as them, possibly even more. Bella was confused, however, because Naruto was really nice. How could he be friends with people like him? Let alone tolerate him? She didn't see them interact yet, but it doesn't matter. As long as Naruto doesn't get influenced by him. She really liked Naruto as her friend and would prefer to maintain their friendship. Plus, appearance-wise, she admits that Naruto kinda belonged to the group. Speaking of, she saw Naruto walking out of his classroom. He was surrounded by his classmates who seemed definitely eager to befriend him. Naruto looked really troubled, but he didn't really want to be rude enough to run away from them. Seeing this, Bella decided to take pity on her friend and called him Naruto. Naruto's head snapped up so fast to her direction that Shus worried he hurted Bella. He said, obviously relieved to have found a reason to get out of his sticky situation. Naruto pushed the people around him away, but still gently while muttering goodbyes as he made his way to Bella. He pulled her away and walked fast when he noticed some people tried to follow him. Once there in the clearing, Naruto hugged her arm and looked at her like Shesam goddess, which she found amusing, seeing as Naruto looked more like one. Thank you. Naruto whined as he lowered his head and rubbed his cheek to Bella's shoulder. Bella just laughed and let him drape himself over her arm. You look like you really need some help. Yes. I didn't really want to be rude to them, Ikno. But they're getting kinda annoying. He pouted. Thanks Bella. You're my savior. He said gratefully. Bella could clearly see some students look at her in barely hidden jealousy. She really didn't like attention, especially negative ones, but she didn't care if it's for her friend. Naruto continued clinging onto her as they walked to the cafeteria. They bought their lunch and carried their trays to a vacant table. Naruto pouted, why don't this school have ramen? I swear they don't know good food. Even though he and Kurama had already tried countless of foods around the outside, his favorite would always be ramen. It wasn't just for the taste, you see, it's because it made him remember the times when the only people who would give him free food was from the Ichirokas. He treasured those memories dearly, and eating ramen always makes his heart warm. Ramen? Like those noodles? Bella asked curiously. She was also amused by the way Naruto can act so childish with her. It made her feel like she has a younger brother. Yup. He said brightly, then he gasped dramatically, don't tell me you haven't tried it yet. He even put a hand on his chest. Bella giggled at his antics, I think I've eaten some before. It's not really common around here, so I think you won't get any soon. She teased. What? How could you people not appreciate the greatness that is ramen? Naruto exclaimed dramatically. Bella laughed openly now, until someone else placed their tray on their table. Naruto suddenly looked serious, calm even. Bella was amazed with his 180 turn of attitude. She asked him before about that when she noticed this kind of change, and what he said warmed her up inside. He said he only acted childish with people he considers his friends and whom he felt really comfortable. Wow, Bella. I didn't know you were friends with him. The girl almost purred the last word. Naruto grimaced. He knew people like her. The way she acts, the way she talks, the way she speaks with Bella, as if she's just talking with her because she needs her for something. The type that would leave their friends for their selfishness. He loathes them. Naruto groaned inwardly. He was just having fun talking with Bella. Then, someone just so rudely interrupted their time. He really enjoyed Bella's company because it made him feel like he had a sister. He caught something moving at the corner of his eyes, and when he looked at it, it was Alice waving her hands in exuberance. His feelings lifted up as he waved back at her just as enthusiastic. He looked at the other occupants in Alice's table and waved at them too while smiling brightly. Emmett waved both his hands cheerfully. Rosalie and Jasper just smiled while Edward smiled too, but it was too tender it made Naruto's heart clench. For what, he didn't know. He would have halted his movement to stare at him because, wow, somehow that smile made him even more handsome. If it wasn't for the girl who sat at their table. She looked at Naruto, so, I heard you're with the Cullens. She almost hissed the name. Naruto fought the urge to roll his eyes, I believe I don't know you. He deadpanned. The girl giggled and it just annoyed him more, oh, silly me. Jessica. And you are. She purred like she didn't really know who he was. Naruto raised an eyebrow, I would have assumed you know me based on how you questioned my relationship with the Cullens, he continued, and for the way you sat beside me with such familiarity, you didn't even ask for permission to sit. Such audacity. Someone snorted loudly from somewhere, and Naruto was certain it was Emmett. He wasn't sure if it was about something else or if Emmett heard him and just had such sharp hearing. Jessica turned red from embarrassment, why yes I know you. It just seemed like the right thing to ask. Then why even bother? Naruto drawled in a really bored tone. Bella tried her best to stop herself from laughing. Jessica did her best to regain her footing, she has a goal, after all. Making Naruto aware of her beauty would make him want her as his girlfriend, then she'll become the center of attention for acquiring such delicacy or so she thought. She twirled a strand of her hair with a finger, it's because I wanted to get to know you better, Naruto. She purred as she tried to reach his hand. Naruto jerked his hand as if he was burned, are you okay? You sound really sick. You keep making these animal noises. He said rather loudly. The students trying to eavesdrop in on their conversation snickered. Naruto heard Emmett roared in laughter and was now certain that he, indeed, could hear Naruto from this far. He wondered if the others also have such sharp senses. Jessica's blush turned back full force, and in a last attempt of getting Naruto's attention to her she said, "The Cullens. I think you shouldn't associate with them anymore. They're nothing but a bunch of jerks who thinks they're so superior." She rolled her eyes so hard, Naruto wished it would get stuck in her skull. They're also really weird, being in such incestuous relationship with others. She said in distaste. "I'm just worried they'll taint you and your name, Naruto." Jessica wore an obviously fake worried look. Naruto just stared at her in a very calm manner that made her think she won. The truth is, Naruto was seething. People who knew Naruto would figure out that this level of calmness was just him trying to rein in his rage so he could stop himself from killing this bitch. Ah, do it. This world would probably even thank you for getting rid of some trash. Kurama interjected. Naruto's been really irritated before Bella saw him. Kurama felt it so he tried to see what's wrong using their connection. Apparently, he decided to watch through Naruto's eyes until after lunch to make sure he was alright. Kurama really is a softie. That won't be a pretty sight. People are eating, after all. They might lose their appetite. I bet they would have applauded you for giving them such great entertainment. Even if they're talking like that, Kurama's actually trying to ground Naruto. Encouraging Naruto to really kill someone would make Naruto not want to do it at all. It will remind him of his morals, and dissuading Kurama's offer of actually going through with satisfying his thirst for blood will reverse Naruto's desire of doing the deed, and they both know this. Naruto breathed in, "Thanks, Kura-chan. Anytime, Kit." Naruto suddenly glared at the woman so intensely, it made her flinch back violently. "You don't know them," he hissed. "How dare you try to uplift yourself by pulling others down. I'll bet my left pinky that you probably tried to get close to them only to get rejected." His voice was getting deeper. "They must have sensed your maliciousness from a mile away, so much that you can't even step near them without them choking on it. The Cullens are good people." "It's creatures," Naruto practically spat at this. "Like you who other people needs to stay away from. Stop being such a pathetic bitch before I force you to," he said, and Jessica swore she saw his eyes change to a slitted red for a second that made her wonder if she really saw it at all. "Now, scram." He practically growled at this. Jessica have never ran faster in her whole life. Naruto swore she almost seemed like a flash. Bella just looked at Naruto not in fear but in amazement. "Wow, can you scare me like that too? It would be a really great help if I could run that fast in my gym class." Naruto's bad mood lessened considerably as he snorted. "I could, but I won't." He continued, "But I can help you train." Bella winced. "Nah, no thanks. Training seems like a lot of work." Her face turned to genuine concern. "Are you alright though?" Naruto smiled softly at her. "Yep. I just really hate people like that. I can't believe she's your friend," he said with a pinched brows. "She's actually not. I'm sure she got close to me just so she can have some attention. New students gain so much, after all." Bella shrugged. "Just push her away if she tried to get close to you again. Although I already made sure that she'll never try again." Naruto smirked. "I wish I could do what you just did." Bella hummed. "That's nothing compared to my father. No one would intentionally approach him out of fear of getting killed." "Hess, that's scary," Naruto said with no hint of fear but pride. "Damn right, I am." Kurama interjected. Hi. I already planted fear into the hearts of my friends should they ever have the desire to meet you." Naruto said hearts of his friends because Hess sure the Cullens are still listening to him. Hess certain they're not what meets the eye, but he actually didn't think of them as suspicious anymore. Naruto's just curious about their secret and he won't force it out of them because he has one himself. Bella gulped. "Your father's really that scary?" "Yep." Naruto chirped, "Except for me, of course. After all, I'm his beloved son." He smiled brightly. Kurama can't say no because Naruto's right. He was his kid. At the Cullens' table, the occupants were silent for what they have heard and seen. They're already used to people mouthing bad things about them and they didn't pay them any mind at all, they just cold care less. Those mortals are just pathetic and extremely stupid creatures. However, someone standing up for them so strongly felt really nice. They're just waiting for the lunch break to finish as Emmett wrapped his arm around Rosalie's waist and Jasper pulled Alice towards him. Edward. Edward just wanted to get Naruto and pull him to make him sit beside him or even on his lap. He wanted to wrap his arms around Naruto's waist so badly and never let him go. What he did earlier just made him fall in love with him more than he already does. Emmett saw that look on Edward's face again, so he nudged him. "Would you please just go and get your man already, Eddie?" "I agree. I would only say this once, but I can bear to be in his presence," Rosalie quietly said. Her saying that she could tolerate to be in a human's presence was the same as saying that she approved of him. "And seeing you act like a lovesick puppy embarrasses me to no end." Edward chuckled and opened his mouth to say something, but Jasper interjected. "I believe it would take him much longer to go and get his man." I felt a spike of apprehension when Naruto spoke of his father. He smirked at Edward. Alice giggled and Edward looked away in embarrassment. Meeting your future lover's parent is already nerve-wracking as it is, then Naruto suddenly goes about how scary his father was. Edward sighed. It looks like the world is out to get him when it comes to his mate. But no matter, he planned to work hard anyway. The prize of the chase is very sweet, after all. Thanks for watching.